The fog clings low to the ground, folding over itself in thick, silent layers, as though the station were breathing slowly in its sleep. The air is warm with the scent of brass and coal and soft old oil. You stand at the edge of the platform, boots resting gently on worn tiles inlaid with intricate brass designs. Scrolls and flowers, leaves and spirals, worn smooth from years of quiet footsteps. Around you, silence holds steady like a comforting blanket, broken only by the occasional sigh of steam escaping from deep within the walls. Above you, the canopy stretches high and wide, a cathedral of copper beams and greenish glass arches. Light filters through the stained panes, casting a watercolour of colours over the polished floor. Muted golds and twilight blues shimmer across the fog like memories trying to surface. The lanterns suspended overhead sway gently from their chains, brass-framed and warm with amber light, their soft flicker reflected in the gleaming pipes that trace the edges of the ceiling. You take a breath, slow and deep. The air tastes faintly metallic, but not unpleasant, like warm machinery humming with purpose. Somewhere distant, the soft click of gears and the gentle tick of a great station clock fold into one another, making the space feel like it moves with a heartbeat larger than your own. You begin to walk down the platform, your steps muffled by the plush carpet runner in the centre, burgundy with golden thread curling in vines beneath your feet. As you pass, the fog curls away around you, always just enough for you to see, never in a hurry to leave. A mechanical bird, no bigger than a sparrow, perches on a nearby schedule post. Its copper feathers catch the lamplight as it turns its head slowly, then lets out a delicate trill. Tiny wisps of steam puff from its wings as it flutters up to a rafter and disappears into the shadows above. To your left, ornate benches made of dark wood and velvet sit under softly ticking schedule boards. The letters and numbers shift with a gentle click as destinations you've never heard of drift across the screen. Places with names like Ashmore, Velvet Rise, Thornport, and the Mirrored Strand. Each one feels familiar in a way you can't explain, like dreams you once had but forgot upon waking. At the edge of one bench, a sleeping figure leans against a suitcase. You don't see their face, only the slow rise and fall of their shoulders beneath a thick wool coat. Their hat rests neatly on their lap, and a small clockwork mouse sits curled beside it, whirring softly in its sleep. Farther along the wall, you pass rows of vending cabinets, glass-fronted and brass-trimmed, filled with curious items. One offers tiny glass ampules filled with fragrant oils for calming the senses. Another contains sealed tins of biscuits labelled in delicate script. There are even compartments offering small, folded maps made of pressed fabric, each marked with rail lines and floating trade routes drawn in soft curling ink. A single, grand locomotive sits in the near distance, silent and resting. It gleams with aged bronze and dark iron, all curves and domes and chimneys that reach like steeples. Steam lingers at its base like morning fog at the feet of a mountain. You draw nearer, letting your hand brush its warm side, the metal smooth and slightly humming with internal life. The lantern at its nose glows faintly golden, casting a halo through the vapour that surrounds it. Each of its cars is unique. One holds tall windows filled with potted ferns, as if someone has built a garden inside. Another has walls lined with bookshelves, their spines strapped in leather to keep them steady during travel. One is a dining car, softly lit with amber chandeliers and booths wrapped in emerald velvet. The scent of cinnamon, tea, and something faintly floral slips out of a partially opened door. As you walk along the train, you notice how each car bears a plaque above the door, names engraved in the looping, ornamental script. The Sleeper's Breath, Clover and Soot, the Night Tin. They mean nothing to you, and yet they all feel like gentle invitations. You don't enter. Just being near them feels enough, like standing beside a world you've been welcomed into without urgency to explore further. Near the back of the platform, the station opens into a grand waiting room. The ceiling arches even higher here, a full dome of clockwork glass that turns slowly overhead like a model of the heavens. Stars, some real, some mechanical, twinkle from within the curved panes. Gears large enough to ride spin in silence above you, their motion too slow to see, but felt in the rhythm of the space. Chairs with high curved backs and red cushions surround small tables that look like mechanical flowers, petal-like leaves made of overlapping brass panels, each opening and closing just a little as though breathing. Tea service automata float quietly between them on magnetic rails recessed into the floor. One pauses as you approach a chair, and a tiny spout extends from its chest, pouring steaming lavender tea into a porcelain cup with painted gears on its rim. You sit. The chair welcomes you like an old friend, deep, plush, and gently creaking in a familiar way. As you lift the cup, you notice its warmth is not just from the tea. It feels held, loved, designed for comfort. You sip, and the taste is subtle and soft. Hints of chamomile, dried citrus, and honey drift across your tongue. The automaton hums approvingly and drifts away without a word. You lose track of time. Maybe an hour passes, maybe only minutes. The fog beyond the great glass doors never clears, but the station seems to glow a little warmer now. You watch as small mechanical cleaning beetles shuffle quietly along the edges of the walls, polishing the brass trim with soft brushes on their feet. From time to time a chime rings, not the sharp call of an announcement, but a mellow tone that blends into the ambience like the note of a distant bell tower. With each sound, the station shifts just slightly. Lights dim and warm. Air vents release new gentle scents. Cardamom, baked bread, the faintest note of rain. You explore further, following hallways lined with engine diagrams and old photographs. One hallway features tall glass cylinders filled with preserved flora from distant lands. Ferns that shimmer, flowers with gear-shaped petals, moss that pulses faintly with warmth. Another corridor leads to a small meditation garden, with pebbles that click when walked upon, and brass fountains that cycle steam through polished copper stems. Eventually you find a narrow staircase leading to an upper landing. It spirals up inside a pillar of glass and iron, each step lit from within. You ascend slowly, your hand brushing the warm brass railing, your footsteps hushed. At the top, the landing opens onto a wide terrace that encircles part of the station dome. Here, the fog is thinner, the air cooler. You look down on the platform below, now glowing in the warm lights like a lantern in a cloud. And then you see it. Far above, beyond the arched glass ceiling, something drifts into view, a silhouette suspended against the sky. It glides past slowly, almost silently, a gleaming shape held aloft by wide canvas wings and gently rotating propellers. The shape is unlike the airships you've seen before. This one is covered in glass and vines and rows of leafy green. You lean against the balcony railing, breath catching quietly as the realization forms in your mind. It is a floating greenhouse, a garden among the clouds. You didn't believe they were real, only stories told in footnotes and faded blueprints. Yet here it is, drifting close, casting a shadow across the brass roof below. You feel a pull, not urgent but steady, like the tide pulling a boat from shore. Your body responds before your thoughts fully form. You turn, make your way back down the spiral stairs, and walk toward the great eastern arch of the station, where a slow-turning set of spiral stairs leads up beyond the walls. At the base of the stair you pause for a moment. Behind you, the brass-bound station continues to hum softly to itself, a place out of time, made of patience and warmth, a place that waits for no one, and yet welcomes everyone. You take your first step upward, toward the floating world in the sky, feeling the quiet rhythm of gears beneath your feet. Far above, through the tall glass arches, something catches your eye. A glimmering shape drifting across the sky, suspended from wide canvas wings. An airship, not one for passengers, but for plants. A floating greenhouse, perhaps, the kind you've only heard described in dusty journals. You feel a gentle pull toward it, and before long, you're climbing the broad spiral stair outside the station, toward the drifting green world in the clouds. The stairs are smooth beneath your feet, each one lit from beneath by a golden glow that grows slightly warmer with every step. Steam vents rise beside you as you ascend, sighing rhythmically, releasing gentle bursts of scented vapour. First rose, then citrus, then the cool green smell of mint and moss. With each exhale of the vents, your body seems to lighten. There is no urgency in your movement, only the sense of drifting upward, as if climbing not through structure, but through air itself. The railings curve like vines, polished brass twisted into soft spirals, and where your hand meets the metal, it feels sun-warmed and smooth. Above, the sky is wrapped in pale blue, misted with soft clouds that catch the sunlight and glow like lace. The airship grows clearer as you approach. It hovers like a garden in a dream, held aloft by broad canvas wings stitched in quilted patterns. Beneath them, a long gondola stretches, built not of iron or steel but of aged wood, glass and living things. You reach a landing at the top of the stairs, an open-air docking platform rimmed with planters of silver-stemmed ivy. A light breeze catches your coat as the platform gently shifts beneath your feet, adjusting itself to meet the gondola's lower hatch. With a soft click, a gangplank unfolds. You take a step forward. The wood is warm and alive underfoot, creaking just enough to whisper its welcome. The moment you cross onto the airship, the world changes. The air is thicker with scent, lavender and loam, ripe fruit, and something golden, like sunlit hay. Overhead, vines drape from the canopy, their green leaves rustling gently. Between them hang glass spheres, each one glowing with captured sunlight that casts soft halos onto the floor. The floor itself is made of wood interlaced with clear panels beneath which roots and soil can be seen. In some places, ferns grow directly beneath your feet, their fronds brushing the glass with slow, feathery movements. Every few steps, a copper-framed lantern releases a low hum and emits a gentle mist of nutrient vapour into the air. You walk forward through the gondola's long main path, which feels more like a greenhouse conservatory than a vessel. Along both sides, tall glass panels stretch from floor to ceiling, bordered in brass and etched with curling botanical patterns. Sunlight filters through, casting green and amber shadows that sway with the plants moving gently in their pots. The plants themselves seem carefully chosen, placed not just for function, but for mood. Some have broad waxy leaves that shimmer faintly. Others hang in delicate chains of blossoms, tiny gears and filaments nestled among their petals. A few plants appear to move ever so slightly, perhaps tracking the sun, perhaps reacting to your presence. They do not feel alien, they feel aware. You pause beside a small fountain built into the wall, where water pours in a continuous loop from a brass lion's mouth, down a series of leaves made of stained glass. Each leaf sings a different soft note as the water trickles over it, creating a layered harmony that shifts with the motion of the ship. The sound wraps around you like warmth, like a lullaby remembered from before you were born. Beyond the fountain, a domed chamber opens up, an atrium filled with trees. Actual trees, their trunks rising through the floor and disappearing through open panels in the roof above. Light pours in through retractable awnings, patterned like butterfly wings. Here, you smell earth more clearly. It smells deep, rich, older than the ship itself. There are benches here, carved from single pieces of honey-coloured wood, and small tables with scattered journals, hand-drawn illustrations of leaves and seeds, and loose gears used as paperweights. You lower yourself onto one of the benches. The wood flexes just slightly, adjusting to your weight, then settles with a quiet groan. A breeze moves through the atrium carrying a new scent, lemongrass and lavender, with something floral you can't name. Bees drift through the air, not wild ones, but small brass-bodied pollinators with wings of gossamer mesh. They land gently on the blossoms, gather what they need, and hum softly as they return to the tiny hive nestled into the wall. Everything is in motion here, but nothing rushes. Pipes carry water upward through the trunks of trees, tiny valves clicking faintly in the distance. Leaves turn toward the light in slow spirals. A vine reaches a new rung on a trellis with the quiet certainty of time itself. You begin to walk again, entering a narrow corridor lined with terrariums. Each glass enclosure is a world in miniature. One holds a rainforest ecosystem, misting itself in precise rhythms. Another is a high desert, filled with coppery soil and cacti tipped in violet. One even contains tiny tree-like structures glowing with pale bioluminescence, surrounding a small pool where silver fish drift in lazy circles. You reach out to touch the glass. It is cool, but the plants respond. A vine uncurls as if in greeting. The fish pause, then drift closer, watching you with slow-turning eyes that reflect light like lanterns. At the far end of the corridor, a circular door slides open silently to reveal a small garden chamber. This space feels more personal. There are cushions arranged in a sunlit nook, and a low table topped with carved stones, moss, and open sketchbooks. On one page, a soft pencil drawing of a blooming orchid. On another, a schematic of the ship's ventilation system, adapted to deliver warmth to sprouting seeds. You sit. Outside the windows, the world drifts by below. Valleys of brass-coloured hills, clockwork windmills turning lazily, canals lined with cog-driven paddle boats. Above, the sky remains a soft, endless blue, marbled with faint strands of cloud. The airship sails gently, silently, without disturbance. Somewhere within the ship, a music box begins to play. Its melody is thin and silvery, like moonlight caught in a jar. It echoes faintly through the walls, carried along copper ducts, softened by leaves and steam. The melody has no urgency, no direction. It simply exists, looping slowly as if waiting for you to notice it. You close your eyes and breathe deeply. Time folds in here. It doesn't move forward or back. It rests. A leaf brushes your shoulder. The wood of the bench warms beneath your palms. A soft mist cools your face. The ship rocks gently as if cradling you in the curve of a breath. You begin to drift without moving. Thoughts slow. Even memories feel gentle and out of reach, like looking at something through thick glass. The only thing that matters is the rhythm of the ship and the gentle presence of everything alive within it. When you open your eyes again, you find yourself in a different room. Perhaps you've wandered in half-sleep. This new space is filled with low wooden cabinets and drawers, each labelled with brass tags in looping script. A cabinet stands open, revealing rows of pressed flowers held in thick pages. Another holds dozens of corked vials, each containing a seed, a grain of soil, a delicate petal suspended in oil. A long counter near the wall features jars of dried herbs, bottles of oil, and bowls carved from crystal. There's no one here, but a kettle has begun to steam. You take a cup from the shelf, find a pouch of loose-leaf tea marked with a drawing of a tree and a gear. As it steeps, the scent rises. Vanilla, mint, a hint of licorice. You sip, and it fills your mouth like warmth in sunlight. At the far end of the cabin, there's a wide window. You sit before it on a stool covered in soft moss and watch the horizon stretch. Below, cities glitter with turning lights. Gardens hang from balconies, and great water wheels spin slowly in gentle canals. Above, more airships drift past, trailing vines and birds in their wake. One passes so close that you can see figures inside tending to their hanging plants, their faces soft and calm, outlined by golden glass. You sit there for a long time. Eventually the ship begins to dip slightly, angling gently toward a range of floating platforms. Broad, still gardens drifting above the sea, their centres glowing with soft blue light. You feel no jolt, no sudden change, just a smooth descent, as though the ship were placing a gentle kiss on the surface of the sky. You rise and walk once more toward the hatch. your steps soft and steady, your heart quiet and full. The gangplank lowers again with a slow click, meeting a platform rimmed with wind chimes and flowering shrubs. A light mist coats your skin as you step forward, and the platform responds with a delicate chime that echoes all the way to the sea below. You pause one last time to look back at the ship. Its sails shift slightly in the breeze. A few leaves flutter in the light. Somewhere within, a music box plays on. And then you turn toward the floating garden ahead, toward open soil, wide petals, and the promise of something ancient growing among the clouds. The surface of the garden platform is soft beneath your feet, woven moss and pliable soil warmed by sunlight and humming faintly from within. All around you, strange and beautiful plants rise from carefully carved beds, some tall and spindly with spiralling leaves, others short and round with flower heads like polished glass. The air is quiet but not silent, filled with the hum of bees, the slow chatter of turning seed pods, and the rhythmic pulse of water pushed through clear copper-veined channels. You take your time crossing the threshold between the corridor and this floating expanse. Behind you, the passage disappears into foliage and latticework, and before you stretches a boundless platform adrift in the sky. Circular, layered, and alive. Its perimeter is ringed with railings twisted like vines, and from them hang softly clinking lanterns of woven brass and verdant crystal. The platform is held aloft by mechanisms hidden deep beneath its core, powered not by steam alone, but by the integration of natural rhythms and silent gyros buried in roots and gears. Your steps are cushioned by a living carpet, a green and golden patchwork of moss, lichen and velvet soft fungi. Each step you take sends a whisper of warmth up through your soles, as if the platform acknowledges your presence. In every direction, gardens bloom in curated chaos, spirals of iridescent petals, trees with metallic bark that hum in the breeze, and vines heavy with silver-veined fruits hang lazily in mid-air. Everything feels like it is growing and thinking at once. To your left, a curved ramp leads you up onto a higher tier. This elevation brings with it a new collection of flora, some encased in glass domes, where the temperature and humidity are tightly regulated by brass-framed gauges and whispering tubes. Inside one dome, a field of translucent mushrooms pulse with a bioluminescent rhythm. Inside another, great flowering stalks sway with no wind, their leaves lined with tiny sensors that twitch at your gaze. A squirrel-like creature made of bark and vines darts past your foot, carrying a seed pod in its mouth. It pauses by a hanging garden, places the pod gently into a soil cradle, and then vanishes behind a low hedge of singing roses, each bloom releasing a faint note as it tilts toward the sunlight. The melodies shift as clouds drift overhead, forming slow, unhurried chords of green and amber light. You find a copper basin embedded in the ground. It is filled with water the colour of sapphires and lazily turning lily wheels. Above it, hanging from a mechanical tree, is a contraption that drips perfumed oil in slow, hypnotic drops. Each time the surface is touched, ripples trace ornate patterns, mandalas, spirals, constellations, that fade as gently as they came. You kneel to observe them, mesmerised by how the platform's artistry seems woven into even the smallest, quietest places. A little farther on, you pass under an archway grown from wood and wire, with mechanical fireflies flitting between its slats. Beyond it lies a meditation glade, circular, hedged with softly clinking glass leaves and shaded by a vast tree whose canopy is made from interlocked brass plates, designed to tilt and open like clockwork flowers. Beneath its shade, cushions of thick moss form a natural couch, where several small sculpted fountains murmur to themselves beside gently flickering light globes suspended in threads of vine silk. You rest here for a while, letting the platform breathe around you. Time, or what passes for it here, slides past in thick, honeyed slowness. A warm breeze carries the scent of aged parchment and orange peel. Somewhere nearby, a plant opens with a whisper, releasing a puff of iridescent dust that glows like sunlight caught in water. When you rise again, your body feels lighter, and the winding path beckons onward. A suspension bridge appears ahead, stretching to a secondary platform. It's made of braided vines wound with copper filaments, strong yet swaying gently in the high-altitude wind. The bridge sings as you step onto it, a deep, resonant tone that echoes from the anchor pylons at either end. Below, nothing but clouds and the pale shimmer of the sea glinting far, far below. You move slowly, the rhythm of your breath syncing with the low harmony of the bridge's melody. On the other side, you arrive at a vertical garden grown against a towering lattice. Here, flowers bloom not in soil, but in glass pockets arranged in elegant spirals. Water flows in perfectly timed pulses through tubes coiled like vines, feeding every plant. A series of rotating sun lamps above mimic the sun's passage, and the flowers themselves tilt to follow each flickering beam. Each petal is a different shape, some rigid and metal-framed, others soft and velvety, and many glow faintly, their light pulsing like heartbeats. You press your palm to a plate set into a carved pillar. At your touch, a soft mechanical chirp is followed by a slow rotation of the platform beneath your feet. It brings into view a small arboretum sheltered by domed glass, lit from within by a warm golden light. Inside is a tree with translucent leaves that whisper secrets as they rustle. Nothing you can understand, just the sensation of words not meant for ears but for something deeper. In the centre of the arboretum is a reflecting pool, perfectly still. The reflection shows you the sky above, exactly as it appears, but something about the clarity feels surreal, dreamlike. You reach toward the surface and it ripples, and suddenly the image becomes that of another floating garden, this one unfamiliar. It rotates slowly in the mirrored world, revealing towers of blooming ferns, flying seed drones drifting above, and pools that glow with pink light. You blink, and the vision fades, returning to sky and clouds. Back outside the dome, a spiral staircase crafted of interlocking leaves leads you to yet another tier. Each step releases a small puff of fragrant air, lavender, sage, sandalwood. At the top you emerge into what seems to be a starlight grove, though night has not yet fallen. The canopy above is fitted with curved lenses that refract daylight into pinpricks, simulating stars. Here, moths with velvet wings and glowing antennae drift slowly through the garden. The air is cooler, wrapped in shadow and silk. You wander slowly through the grove, tracing fingers along vines that curl and open as you pass. In one clearing, mechanical birds nest in trees of brass and vinewood, their ticking hearts beating quietly in time with your own. They coo and chirp, responding not to your touch, but to the changes in your breath, mimicking its cadence in soft flute-like notes. As you move toward the centre of the grove, the floor beneath you becomes translucent. Beneath it is a massive root system suspended in liquid amber, roots, pipes, and cables, all woven together into a single, living circuit. It glows with a low internal light, as though the energy of the entire floating platform begins and ends here, within this radiant heart. You rest again on a bench shaped like a curled leaf. Its underside is lined with gentle heating coils that respond to your presence. The scent of mint and ironwood fills the air. The wind has settled now. Dusk finally reaches the garden, and the bioluminescent flowers open fully. Great blossoms of turquoise and violet, their light pulsing like a lullaby. Tiny glowing spores rise into the air around you. They drift upward, spiralling like slow fireflies, guided by the gentle updrafts that keep the platform balanced. Some stick to your sleeve and dissolve into motes of gold. A tunnel appears ahead, partially obscured by vines. It curves downward, disappearing into mist. At its entrance, a bronze arch hums softly, and small petals flutter in a pattern as if pulled by some unseen rhythm. You approach the tunnel slowly. The tunnel is narrow, enclosed by interwoven branches and hung with small lanterns made of curled glass and pressed leaves. As you pass beneath each one, it flickers softly, casting shifting shadows on the living walls. The air inside is warm and carries the scent of tree bark, iron dust and lavender oil. A low vibration hums beneath your feet, pulsing in time with your heartbeat as the path begins to slope gently downward. You follow the curve slowly, your fingertips brushing along the damp living bark that lines the tunnel walls. Beneath your hand, the texture feels like a hybrid of tree and wire, natural grain veined with subtle ridges of embedded conduit. It pulses faintly with warmth, as though the entire structure breathes in long, patient intervals. The lanterns above sway gently as you pass, responding to unseen currents in the air. The tunnel deepens and the air shifts around you, cooler now but never cold, filled with a mingling scent of rich earth and faint ozone. The soft glow of bioluminescent veins within the walls grows brighter, weaving delicate patterns in swirling lines and loops that resemble ancient calligraphy. They pulse gently in time with the low vibration beneath your feet, like a heartbeat you can almost see. Your footsteps slow as you become more aware of the living nature of the routeway. The walls respond to your presence, the vines and roots shifting imperceptibly, parting just enough to make your passage easier. In one spot, a broad root arches over your head, covered in tiny buds that glow faintly blue. As you pass beneath, one of the buds unfurls, revealing a cluster of soft, feathered filaments that drift upward like dust motes caught in a shaft of light. The floor beneath your feet is soft, a thick carpet of moss woven with thin strands of copper wire. Each step sends a faint tingle through the ground, as if you were stepping on the skin of something alive, something immense and slow-moving. The gentle hum continues, rising and falling like the breath of a slumbering giant. Here and there, small creatures peer out from the roots, tiny insects with glassy wings shimmering in hues of copper and emerald, slow-moving crustaceans with brass-plated shells, and delicate spider-like machines that spin webs of fine copper thread. They observe you silently, then retreat deeper into the shadows, their movement so slow they seem part of the environment rather than separate beings. You reach a narrow alcove where a spring of clear water bubbles up from the earth, pooling in a carved basin of smooth stone and brass. The water is cool and sweet, reflecting the soft glow of the roots above. You cup your hands and drink, the liquid refreshing and faintly sweet, carrying a trace of mint and wildflower. The vibration beneath you slows, as if acknowledging the pause, the heartbeat settling into a deep, restful rhythm. Continuing onward, the tunnel widens into a vaulted chamber, the ceiling lost in shadows but studded with small points of glowing fungus. From the walls hang slow-moving vines that pulse with faint light, their tips gently swaying as if stirred by an invisible breeze. The air is thick with the scent of wet wood, honey, and a trace of burnt copper, comforting and familiar. Along one side, a broad route twists and spirals, winding its way up toward an unseen canopy. Embedded in the root are brass plates, etched with intricate patterns of gears and leaves, their edges softly glowing. You run your hand over one of these plates and feel the subtle vibration of tiny gears turning beneath the surface, a hidden clockwork heart keeping time with the rest of the routeway. You follow a low ledge carved from living wood, stepping carefully as the path narrows. Lanterns hang from woven branches above, their glass globes pulsing gently with light that shifts in hue, from soft gold to pale green to deep amber. Each lantern emits a faint scent, a blend of dried herbs and warm metal, creating a layered fragrance that relaxes your senses. The path begins to slope downward once more, and you notice how the bioluminescent veins in the walls become more complex, forming patterns that resemble constellations, dots of light connected by thin, glowing lines. You feel as if you're walking through a living star map, the pulse of the tunnel echoing the slow cadence of distant worlds. Near the bottom, the floor changes texture, becoming more solid and smooth. Translucent panels of amber embedded with fossilized roots form stepping stones, glowing softly beneath your feet. As you step, each panel emits a gentle tone, part of a delicate melody that accompanies your descent. The music is slow and soothing, a lullaby sung by the routeway itself. You pause beside a pool of water fed by a thin stream running from the walls. The surface reflects the glowing roots and the ceiling above, rippling softly as a breeze moves through the chamber. Tiny motes of light rise from the water, drifting upward like fireflies, filling the space with a quiet magic. Nearby, a cluster of seed machines rests in a cradle of roots. Their forms are small and delicate, made of polished brass and glass, with slender legs that twitch occasionally. They emit a series of soft chimes in a repeating pattern, their gentle song weaving into the ambient hum around you. You step onto a floating platform tethered by thick vines to the chamber walls. The platform is covered in soft moss and shaped wood, and it begins to lower slowly. As you descend, the intricate root and gear systems become clearer. Thick cables woven with fibres of living tissue, pipes that pulse with steam and sap, and clusters of glowing crystals nestled between coils of root and wire. Around you, small creatures flit and crawl. The flickering glow of moths, beetles with shining carapaces, and lizards with mossy backs. Their movements are calm and unhurried, part of the quiet life within the routeway. When the platform reaches its lowest level, you step off onto a broad spiral ramp lined with copper railings entwined with living vines. The ramp curves upward, bathed in the warm glow of amber lanterns suspended from above. With each step, the scent of crushed herbs mingles with the faint metallic tang of machine oil. The spiral leads you to a circular chamber where enormous roots twist overhead, their surfaces carved with ancient runes and symbols. Brass plaques embedded in the walls turn slowly, displaying diagrams of root networks and mechanical systems, maps of the city's deep structure. You trace the patterns with your fingers, feeling a connection to the vast network that sustains the floating gardens above. This place is the memory of the city, a living archive of wood and metal entwined. The chamber hums softly, the vibrations settling into a deep pulse that resonates within your chest. You close your eyes for a moment, breathing in the mingled scents of earth and machine, feeling the steady rhythm slow your thoughts and ease your mind. Ahead, a narrow corridor winds upward again. The walls here are lined with broad leaves that drip moisture in a slow, steady rhythm. Pipes hum quietly behind the surfaces, carrying steam and sap to unknown destinations. A warm copper vine guides your path, winding along the wall like a glowing river of light. Your hand brushes its surface, and a gentle warmth spreads up your arm, calming and soothing. The corridor opens into a large hatchway. You push it open with a soft creak and step onto a gentle conveyor path. The platform moves in lazy spirals upward, carrying you toward the surface. Sunlight filters down through a canopy of glass and leaf above, dappling the path with shifting patterns of light and shadow. Wind chimes made from hollow seed pods and slender brass tubes sing softly in the breeze. You reach the top and step off onto a vaulted passage. The ceiling is a lattice of brass and wood, filtering daylight into warm golden beams. Far above, mechanical wings drift silently on slow patrol. Before you stands a tall archway framed by spindly trees with bark like burnished bronze. Beyond it, steam rises from vents set into the floor. The faint hiss of pistons and the steady click of gears fill the air, signalling your entry into a more mechanical sector of the city. The scent of polished metal and warm oil mingles with the lingering smell of earth and leaf as you walk toward the archway, stepping gently into the rhythm of a different world. The archway opens into a vast chamber filled with slow-turning gearworks and columns of rising steam. Copper struts and iron lattice form a honeycomb above, filtering sunlight into angled beams. Walkways run across the room at every level, some carrying pipes, others cables, and a few simply lined with quiet lanterns that flicker in rhythm with a distant pulse. The sound of slow, methodical machinery fills the air, steady, endless, and soft like breathing made of metal. You take your first step into the chamber, and the air wraps around you like a warm exhale. There is a calm to the temperature here, not hot but enveloping, as though the entire room has been steeped in steady motion for 1,000 years. You pause a moment and feel it, a pulse, not unlike the slow beat of a living heart, humming through the metal floor beneath your boots. Beneath your feet, the walkway is a blend of pressed brass and iron, age-smooth and burnished by time. A lattice of fine steam vents winds along the path like veins beneath translucent skin, releasing quiet hisses in a rhythm you don't understand but feel comforted by nonetheless. The sound is never loud, only present, consistent, as natural to this space as wind through leaves or waves along a shore. The chamber opens in every direction. To your left and right, gantries rise in lazy spirals, their edges softened by time and steam. Below, enormous mechanisms churn in slow, graceful arcs. Massive pistons descend and rise again, each one as wide as a wagon wheel and finished to a gleam. Vast gears, some 6 or 7 meters in diameter, interlock with others in intricate sequences, their motion elegant and smooth, almost slow enough to be missed if you weren't paying attention. A heavy cable above your head carries long, fluid bundles of fabric-covered wires, all moving gently with the vibration of the room. They hang like vines in a jungle of metal, swaying just enough to draw your eye from time to time, whispering against one another like old friends sharing secrets. You follow a wide catwalk made from a bronze mesh, reinforced along its sides with a lattice work. As you walk, your footsteps are muffled by the subtle give in the metal, which seems to respond to weight not with creaks or groans, but with acceptance. The entire structure feels alive, not merely engineered, but nurtured into existence. High above, the honeycomb ceiling reveals itself more clearly. Each hexagonal segment is a pane of smoky glass framed in brassy trim, and sunlight filters through the patterned dome in shifting amber tones. When the steam rises just right, the light scatters and creates soft halos in the air. You reach up instinctively as one passes overhead, an instinctive gesture to touch something that feels not just beautiful, but benevolent. A gentle draught slips down from the upper rafters, warm and dry and faintly scented with lavender and machine oil. It carries the memory of gardens kept behind copper vents and filtered light, somewhere above, perhaps beyond this chamber entirely. The scent is faint but grounding. You breathe it in slowly and feel your shoulders fall, the weight of silence pressing gently, soothingly. As you continue, you pass over a portion of the floor that reveals the deeper workings beneath. A wide viewing pane of thick, polished glass set into the walkway allows you to peer down through layer after layer of rotating mechanisms. It feels endless. Vast belts shuttle energy from wheel to wheel, and glowing tubes carry pulses of coloured light through the darkness like fireflies inside crystal veins. Each layer below appears less mechanical and more abstract. The lowest ones shimmer faintly, their surfaces covered in moving diagrams, spinning brass globes, shifting arrays of dials and rods. Nothing seems out of place. Everything turns, folds and unfolds with a kind of grace usually reserved for music or wind. You pass beneath an arch shaped like a stretched ellipse, its metal frame wrapped in interwoven wire vines, and trimmed with small beads of ceramic that glow faintly as you approach. They react to your presence, pulsing softly in a wave that travels from the bottom of the arch to the peak, and then back down again. It's a silent greeting, you think. Something old, something still watching. Beyond the arch, a central platform emerges, a round, suspended dais hung by massive chains of copper from the ceiling above. The platform floats with a slow, undulating motion, as though tethered to the breath of the chamber itself. You step onto it, and it dips slightly before rising again, absorbing your weight without protest. The movement beneath your feet is soothing, barely a sway, like standing on calm water. Around the edge of the platform, concentric rings of seats, panels, and old folded instruments line the perimeter. Some are folded shut, others half open, displaying spinning needles or slow-ticking dials behind crystal glass. None of them buzz or flash. They only hum, quietly, steadily, like the room's own breathing. You find a seat made of cooled brass, its edges rounded, its surface faintly warm. The padding is unexpected. Thin strips of soft leather, stitched with thick thread, worn by generations of use but still firm. You sit, lean back, and let your gaze follow the ceiling's rise and fall. The light above has shifted again. Now it filters through soft clouded panels that paint the chamber in a golden dusk. The air feels like early evening. Around you, valves open and close with whispering sighs. Small coils mounted near the edge of the platform adjust, seemingly of their own accord. A tuning fork mounted in the wall begins to hum faintly, vibrating in time with the pulsing below. The sound reaches you not through your ears, but through your chest, a low tone that rumbles like a lullaby from the bones of the earth. Somewhere above, a flock of soft mechanical birds passes across the skylight, their wings barely visible, their forms indistinct through the steamy pane. They drift silently, directionless, but purposeful. One of them casts a small flickering shadow that lands near your feet before disappearing with the bird itself. You don't need to know where they're going. You rise again and cross the platform, following a narrow gangway that spirals upward. Each step feels like a page being turned. The railing is etched with thousands of tiny letters, languages you cannot read, symbols you can't identify. But the meaning is clear. Motion, balance, breath. This place was not built in haste. It was shaped with care and memory. Near the top you reach a chamber shaped like an amphitheatre, domed and lined with gold-veined stone. The walls here are smoother, colder, less mechanical. Still, steam pipes wind along the floor, and at the centre is a raised plinth holding a single glass globe. Inside, a tiny filament glows and turns slowly, projecting fine, spiralling shapes onto the ceiling above. You stand beneath them, watching slow galaxies form and dissolve again, one after another, like breath drawn in and gently let go. The dome hums with low resonance, and the floor pulses faintly beneath your feet. The lights dim, then swell, then dim again. You stay there a long time, caught in the rhythm of something ancient and tireless. Eventually the chamber narrows once more, leading you into a tapering corridor where polished copper gives way to stone, and the soft exhale of steam is replaced by something quieter still, the sound of flowing water. The scent of mist and minerals reaches you before you see the space ahead. The air turns cooler, thicker, damp with the promise of subterranean pools and crystal caverns untouched by machines. You continue on, drawn by the gentle trickle and the soft, shifting light that begins to dance against the floor just ahead. The corridor narrows and curves inward, leading into a cavern of glass and stone where water moves in long, spiralling ribbons through channels carved into the floor. Pale light filters through crystals embedded in the walls, casting soft rainbows that flicker and shift with the flow. The air is cool and damp, rich with the scent of minerals and mist. Every sound here is gentle, water trickling, droplets falling, the distant gurgle of hidden reservoirs echoing softly against the stone. You step lightly, your footfalls making soft splashes against the shallow pools laid out like veins across the floor. The stone beneath you feels smoothed by time, slick in some places, etched in others. These channels are not chaotic, not random. They were laid out with intention, long ago, as if some artist or engineer had sketched a dream of harmony between liquid and stone, and made it real. Mist curls upward from hidden vents in the floor. It gathers in lazy spirals, hanging in the still air before drifting toward unseen vents high above. There is no draft, no rush of movement, only the slow shifting of air warmed by water and cooled again by contact with the rock. You pause to let it pass through your fingers, watching how the vapour clings and releases, weightless and without resistance. Around you, crystal spires grow in quiet clusters. Some rise like fingers reaching from the stone, others droop like chandeliers grown heavy with time. They pulse gently with soft blues, ambers and faint greens, lending the chamber a dreamy underwater hue. The reflections play across your skin and clothing like the memory of rain moving through leaves. As you move further in, the floor descends in a slow spiral, taking you deeper into the heart of the cavern. Water flows beside you in perfectly measured currents, some broad and mirror smooth, others narrow and quick, twisting through delicate grooved paths that wind like clockwork. The craftsmanship here is ancient but alive, the workings of a civilization that revered patience and precision equally. A hush surrounds you, not silence but the quiet of perfect function. There is no clatter of gears here, no hiss of pressure valves or rattle of chains. This is not the mechanical heartbeat of the city above, but something older, deeper, a pulse carried by water and stone. You become aware of your own breathing, how it slows to match the rhythms around you. Inhale, exhale. The water flows, the light breathes. Eventually the spiral path widens into a central dome where everything seems to pause. A still pool lies in the middle, black as glass, ringed with small lanterns of crystal and brass. The water is so perfectly clear you can see the carved sigils on the stone floor beneath its surface. Concentric circles, interlocking lines, curves that suggest motion even in perfect stillness. You kneel beside it, drawn to its surface, and for a moment your reflection returns your gaze not as a mirror, but as a suggestion. A silhouette softened by shimmer and memory. You lower your hand toward the surface. You don't touch it, but the water responds anyway. Small ripples spread from your presence alone, and with them come shapes, half-formed memories, not your own but somehow familiar. A rising balloon, trailing steam, a gloved hand reaching into starlight, a room full of clocks ticking in harmony. The images rise like dreams and fade like mist before meaning settles. You stay there, watching, your mind quiet. The water does not ask for attention. It offers only space, reflection, and the soft invitation to be still. When you finally rise, it is not because you are finished, but because the room is done with you for now. A passage opens behind a curtain of falling droplets. The water falls in even sheets, like the pages of a book made from rain. You pass through them gently, letting them fall across your shoulders and arms, soaking fabric and skin alike in a way that feels more ceremonial than physical. Beyond, the tunnel darkens, then widens again into a smaller, more intimate chamber. Here, water lines every surface, walls, ceiling, floor. But not in floods or streams. The water here has been persuaded into delicate patterns that move with unhurried grace, like 1,000 ink lines drawn across parchment. The stone guides each rivulet, each loop and turn, and the room feels more like an illuminated manuscript than a machine. You walk along its length, your eyes drawn to the constant curling motion. The walls curve in, forming alcoves shaped like petals. Within each is a still bowl of water lit from below by slow-burning flame. The air glows warm in each hollow, and you sit beside one for a time, watching the firelight and water blend together in slow, fluid rhythms. They move not in opposition, but in unison, the warm hues of the flame casting soft gold across the cool mirror of the bowl. From somewhere unseen, soft tones begin to rise, not music in the usual sense, more like the long ring of a glass struck gently, or the call of wind through copper pipes. It builds gradually, without urgency, weaving through the stone until it becomes part of the space. You sit with it, wrapped in sound and light and quiet, your thoughts dissolving like ink in clear water. Eventually you rise again. You walk slowly now, as if moving through a memory rather than a corridor. Time has loosened its grip here. It doesn't pull you forward, it simply flows around you. You enter a chamber shaped like a lens, where water moves beneath a floor of clear panels. Beneath your feet, entire patterns shift and reform, mandalas of liquid geometry changing with every step. The light from above refracts through the surface, forming radiant designs that spin and stretch across the walls like projected dreams. The effect is mesmerizing. You walk in slow circles, watching your movement ripple outward in waves of shifting colour and shape. In the centre of the room is a single chair formed of dark brass and folded leather. It rests atop a pedestal that rises from the water below, surrounded by a shallow moat that pulses faintly with amber light. You sit, and for a moment everything stops. The music fades, the lights dim, the water beneath the chair slows to stillness, and then, softly, the chamber comes alive again. The walls become screens. Light from the channels below rises upward, casting moving images into the curved ceiling. They are not clear scenes, not exact recollections, but gestures, moments, the closing of a gate, the lifting of a child, a lantern extinguished against the night sky. They pass like shadows of stories drifting overhead, and you watch them not with attention, but with presence. You sit until the images begin to fade, and when they do, the floor beneath you glows again with soft gold. The chair gently lowers itself back to the stone, and you step off, the sounds of flowing water once again rising to meet you. A quiet door of brushed metal opens without a sound. You pass through. Now the mist gives way to dry warmth, and the stone becomes smooth tile lined with copper veins. Ahead of you, warm air pulses from vented grills hidden in the base of curved walls. A spiral staircase winds upward beside a column of rising water, enclosed in glass and humming faintly. You ascend slowly, watching the water rise with you, its bubbles lit by flickering panels set into the walls. At the top, the staircase opens into a circular room filled with soft light and shelves built from interlocked brass beams. Each shelf holds books, scrolls, or delicate objects, brass sextants, porcelain masks, velvet-lined boxes that hum quietly. The air is heavy with the scent of old parchment and machine oil. It's a library, but not of facts and data. It's a gallery of stored thought, ideas captured and archived like constellations frozen mid-turn. A large table in the centre turns ever so slowly, its polished surface marked by compass, roses and planetary paths. Symbols you don't understand drift across its edge, illuminated by a focused beam of light suspended from above. It makes no sound as it moves, only the whisper of pages shifting in still air. You wander among the shelves without the need to read. Your fingertips brush across volumes and bindings, feeling the textures: worn cloth, polished wood, etched copper. Some vibrate softly when touched, others remain still. You pick up nothing, but you carry away everything. Above you, a slow-moving mobile made of cut glass and weightless gears casts refracted shadows that dance with the light from below. They form ever-changing constellations on the curved ceiling, each slow turn another quiet reminder that time, here, is meant to be experienced, not tracked. You pause, breathe, and take it all in. The water below, the symbols above, the weight of stillness and the lightness of memory. The path leads into a domed conservatory, filled with trees of brass and glass leaves that shimmer in the filtered light. Vines made of copper wire curl along iron trellises, and delicate steam spirals drift up from vents hidden beneath flower beds of moss and mineral. The air smells like sun-warmed metal, sweet oils, and distant rain. A soft chime rings from somewhere within, a signal of arrival, though no one appears to greet you. You step forward into the conservatory and immediately feel the gentle warmth of filtered sunlight. The glass dome above is segmented into facets that catch the light and break it into soft prismatic hues drifting lightly across every surface. Each ray feels alive, painting shifting patterns on the brass trunks of the mechanical trees, the veins of glass leaves, and the polished tile beneath your feet. A gentle mist rises from the flower beds, curling around your ankles like tendrils of a dream. You inhale deeply and taste notes of lavender, warm honey, and the faintest hint of ozone, like the air just after a distant storm. The moisture beads on the glass leaves overhead and drips in tiny droplets that sparkle before they fall. The sound is barely there, a shy patter that adds a fourth dimension of calm to the space. You wander slowly along winding paths laid out in mosaics of tile and metal. Each turn reveals a new tableau, a grove of slender trunks whose branches arch to form living archways. Pools of still water rimmed with copper, reflecting the tapestry of light above. Benches grown from brass vines and glass petals, shaped to cradle you as if the conservatory itself invites rest. At the centre of the space stands a great fountain, not of water, but of steam. A latticework of pipes rises like coral to a central spire, where steam wells up in gentle bursts, falling in silvery plumes that drift downward, dissolving into the air. The base of the fountain is ringed with small nozzles that release occasional puffs of scented vapour, jasmine, sandalwood, rose, each arriving unannounced, as if carried on the breath of the place itself. You pause by the fountain's edge, placing a hand on the cool brass rim. The metal is smooth and warm, humming faintly with the pulse of the steam within. Watching the vapours flow, you feel the weight of the world outside lift from your shoulders. Time here is measured not by clocks, but by the gentle cycle of breath and mist. A narrow footbridge arches over a shallow channel of water lined with glowing stones. You walk across, noticing how the stones change colour underfoot. Emerald, sapphire, topaz, in a pattern that feels like a slow, silent conversation between earth and light. On the other side lies a secret alcove. Inside the alcove, a single glass globe sits atop an iron pedestal. You lean in to look and find microscopic gardens swirling inside, tiny mechanical insects pollinating miniature blossoms, droplets of dew coalescing and falling in tiny cascades, roots unfurling and curling as if in slow motion. The globe spins itself gently on its pedestal, each rotation revealing a new detail of this hidden world. When you step away, the alcove reveals a hidden passage behind a curtain of vine-like copper filigree. You part the tendrils and step through, emerging into a corridor of soft lamplight. The walls here are wrapped in velvet panels stitched with copper thread, creating patterns of leaves and gears that gleam in the glow. The scent shifts to warm resin and aged leather, comforting like a well-loved book. Along the corridor, narrow windows look back into the conservatory, offering framed glimpses of swaying leaves and drifting steam. Each window is bordered by intricate etchings, scenes of past visitors, sketched in soft relief. A lone figure reading beside the fountain, a pair of hands cupping misty vapour, a traveller sleeping on a vine-woven bench. The scenes feel intimate and unhurried, capturing moments rather than actions. The corridor widens into a circular gallery. Here, Floor-to-ceiling screens display layered images that drift slowly across each other. A dancer's shadow pirouetting among brass columns, raindrops tracing spirals down glass, a bird of copper and feather riding an unseen current. The overlapping visuals create depth and motion without haste, like watching memories unfold in slow, synchronized harmony. You find a seat carved from a single piece of mahogany, its curves softened by years of use. You sit, letting your back rest against varnished wood as the images drift in front of you. The screen closest shows a series of delicate sketches, the construction of an automaton from pocket watch components, the bloom of a clockwork rosebud, the flight path of a tiny mechanical beetle. The pencil lines are fine and precise, turning to watercolours of brass and gold as the animation plays. When the sequence ends, another begins. This one a map traced in light across a night sky. Constellations formed from gear shapes and steam clouds. You lean forward, entranced by the blend of star mapping and machinery, feeling the calm certainty of an ordered universe. The gallery's soft hum is punctuated by a distant chime. You rise and follow the sound through an archway into a domed alcove. This space is silent except for a single instrument, a mechanical harp whose strings are threads of glowing fibre. A gentle mechanism plucks the strings, producing a melody so faint you barely hear it, but feel it in your chest. Each note is a drop of water in a ceramic bowl, full and round, resonating long after it fades. You sit cross-legged on the floor, letting the harp's song settle over you. The notes rise and fall in patterns that feel intuitive. No hurry, no pause. You close your eyes, sensing the resonance move through your body, aligning your breath to its rhythm. After several minutes, the melody winds down, and you rise again. The alcove's entrance reveals another corridor, this one lined with cylindrical glass cases. Inside each case rests an object, a single glove stitched from metallic thread, a pocket watch whose gears turn on their own, a feather that shimmers like spun copper. Each case is labelled in flowing script you cannot read, and behind the glass a light pulses slowly, like a silent heartbeat. You move case to case, observing without touching. The objects seem to hold words you cannot hear, stories you cannot speak, yet their presence is soothing, each a testament to a life gently lived, a moment quietly preserved. At the corridor's end, a subtle shift in light draws you toward a broad stairway descending into shadow. The steps are carved from dark basalt, worn smooth, their edges glowing faintly where brass inlays have been polished by footfall. You begin to descend, each step hushed beneath your feet. As you go lower, the air cools and the walls become rough-hewn rock. Yet beneath the rough surface, veins of metal thread through the stone, gleaming in fragments of light. You sense the passage closing in around you, intimate and secluded, yet alive with the energy of hidden currents. Halfway down, a niche opens beside a tunnel where water falls in a delicate curtain. You pause, letting the droplets scatter as you pass beneath. They feel like a gentle shower, each drop a tiny note in the hush of the hall. At the stair's bottom lies a polished door of burnished copper. Its surface is engraved with overlapping circles and spirals that seem to shift when viewed from the corner of your eye. You press your hand to the centre, and the door responds with a low hum, then swings open just enough for you to slip through. On the other side, the world blooms again into soft light and open space, an orb-lit chamber filled with hanging gardens and floating benches. Here, vines droop from the ceiling, their leaves glowing with bioluminescence. You inhale the scent of night-blooming flowers and soft moss. Lanterns drift on invisible currents, illuminating pockets of the chamber in warm pools. You choose a bench suspended from copper chains and sit, letting your legs dangle above a floor covered in glass tiles. Beneath the tiles, shifting sands of silver and bronze swirl in slow eddies, reflecting the lantern light in rippling patterns. Above you, the dome of glass shows a sky alive with stars that move in gentle arcs. Some are real, distant pinpricks of light. Others are mechanical, tiny bulbs tracing slow circuits across the heavens. The boundary between earth and sky feels permeable here, as though the hall and the stars are part of the same dream. You lean back, closing your eyes and feeling the slow sway of the bench, the warmth of the lanterns, the hum of distant gears, the whisper of vines, all blend into a lullaby of presence and motion. Time stretches into an endless moment, held by the hall's quiet embrace. Beyond the final arch, you find yourself in an enclosed bazaar lined with softly glowing lanterns. Every stall hums with delicate motion, tiny steam gadgets clicking in time, rotating art pieces twirling on slender spindles, and musical trinkets chiming each time they turn. The air smells of warm spices and sugared tea as you step lightly across worn cobblestones toward the lantern market. You pause beneath an arch of carved teak and burnished brass, its surface inlaid with delicately etched clock faces frozen at various hours. Each tells a different story: midnight, dawn, mid-afternoon, but none advance, as though time here is measured by presence, not by ticking hands. You step through, and the market spreads before you like a living tapestry of light, sound, and scent. Stalls draped in velvet and copper cloth stand shoulder to shoulder, each one boasting a different wonder. A brass automaton in the shape of a fox sits at one booth, tail curled, eyes aglow with mechanical warmth. It moves only when you approach, ears flicking, head tilting, and then, without sound, it bows its head in a silent greeting. To your right, a jeweller's cart displays necklaces of tiny gears strung on silk threads. Each gear is engraved with microscopic runes, and when you hold one up, the runes glow softly in response to your touch. Leaning closer, you discover that each rune shifts under gentle pressure, forming new patterns as though it's tracing the contours of your thoughts. A few steps on, you encounter a pavilion shaded by fabric woven from fine copper mesh. Beneath it, a musician's stall features a cello made of polished walnut and brass. The strings are spun silver, and a small mechanism within gently bows them, coaxing out notes that linger in the air like drifting petals. You lean against a support post wrapped in soft leather and close your eyes, letting the resonance carry you until the sound fades into the market's hum. The scent of sweet tea grows stronger, and you find a low table surrounded by plush cushions of velvet and brocade. A delicate automaton server approaches silently, bearing a tray of lidded silver teapots. You lift a lid to discover tea leaves shaped like tiny clock hands. When steeped, they unfurl into miniature gear-shaped petals floating in golden liquid. You sip slowly, savouring notes of chamomile, mint, and a whisper of saffron. Each sip brings a new nuance, a memory of rain on metal rooftops, the warmth of sun through stained glass windows, a faint echo of distant laughter. The automaton remains patient, refilling your cup before it empties, its movements so smooth they're barely perceptible. Around you, other patrons, automatons and travellers alike, sip in companionable silence, each lost in personal reverie. Rested, you rise and continue along another cobbled lane. Here the ground is paved with painted ceramic tiles, each illustrating scenes of city life. Traders haggling over brass trinkets, engineers adjusting massive gears, children chasing mechanical butterflies. The tiles form a winding mosaic, and your feet follow it naturally, stepping from story to story. At one tile you kneel to study its detail. A tiny airship tucked behind puffy clouds, its propellers frozen mid-slice. You imagine the hum of its engine, the sway of gondolas tethered below, and you feel a gentle tug toward the sky. The next tile shows a forge where molten metal flows like liquid gold, suggestion of sparks dancing across a darkened hall. With each scene, you absorb the still frame narrative, letting the artistry settle into your mind. The lane opens into the steam heart chamber, where the air warms and the scent of hot metal mingles with jasmine and tea. Great boilers stand along the walls, each capped with decorative vents that shape the rising steam into ornate curls. Between them, massive flywheels spin in silent unison, their rhythm so regular it feels like breathing. You step onto a raised platform at the hall's centre, where brass grating reveals the inner workings below. Pistons and rods thrust in time, and belts of leather glide over pulleys, transferring energy in a dance of silent precision. You lean on the railing, letting the low, mechanical hum settle between your ears, a steady vibration that soothes your thoughts. Circling the steam heart chamber, you encounter booths showcasing curiosities. Small brass scribes dip quills in copper pigmented ink, composing poems that curl across parchment like living vines. Glass domes enclose miniature ecosystems where clockwork insects pollinate gear-shaped flowers beneath tiny glass suns. Music boxes crafted from rosewood and brass play melodies gleaned from lost lullabies, notes that wrap around you like a gentle embrace. At one booth, you lift the lid of a music box to reveal a spinning record etched with city maps. The melody that pours forth feels like a forgotten lullaby, its refrain weaving through your mind in slow, delicate loops. Leaving the main chamber behind, you pass through velvet curtains into a shadowed alcove. Here, a circular bench surrounds a pool of mercury silver liquid so still it mirrors the dome's gears above. You settle onto the bench, and a mechanical arm extends a fine brush to the pool's surface. With each stroke, the arm paints fractal patterns, spirals, tessellations, interlocking rings, only to have the liquid shift back into mirror finish. The ticking of hidden gears harmonizes with the shifting reflections, creating a living artwork of metal and light. You sit entranced until the patterns settle, then rise, feeling both refreshed and introspective. You ascend a spiral staircase of coiled copper pipe, each step a section of flattened tubing polished smooth by countless travellers. The handrail is a continuous spiral of brass, warm from touch. As you climb, the steam heart chamber falls away, its patterns fading to a gentle hum. At the top you step onto a high walkway circling the chamber's upper tier. From here you peer down at the boilers and flywheels, their synchronized motion a reminder of the city's heartbeat. Lanterns hang from iron trusses, their pale flame brushing the metal surfaces with soft light. You follow the walkway until it leads you through an arch of carved iron vines and into cooler air, where a corridor lined with panels of flowing water encased in thick glass greets you. Droplets chase each other in hesitant spirals. Streams flow down etched channels, tracing patterns on the glass. Micro-waterfalls hover in mid-air, defying gravity. Lantern light refracts through each panel into faint rainbows dancing on the stone floor. Exiting the water gallery, you step onto a broad stone terrace overlooking the mist-shrouded canals. Lantern-lit gondolas drift below, their polished copper hulls gleaming in the watery reflections. The sky above is a deep indigo, scattered with mechanical stars and distant airship lights. You lean on the balustrade, breathing in the cool night air tinged with rain and oil. In the distance, a gondolier's song rises, a low, melodic call that drifts upward like smoke. The gondola approaching the dock glides in silently, its curved prow carving gentle ripples across the canal. Lantern light flickers across etched ruby glass as the cabin door swings open with a soft hiss, revealing velvet cushions and warm lantern light within. A silent invitation. Beyond the final arch, you find yourself in an enclosed bazaar lined with softly glowing lanterns. Every stall hums with delicate motion, tiny steam gadgets clicking in time, rotating art pieces twirling on slender spindles, and musical trinkets chiming each time they turn. The air smells of warm spices and sugared tea as you step lightly across worn cobblestones toward the lantern market. The sky above the canal terrace deepens to velvety black, and one by one, lanterns above the water dim to soft points of light, guiding your gaze toward a single gondola drifting into view. Its polished copper hull gleams in the starlight, and a low song hums from within, welcoming you aboard as you step down the narrow gangplank toward the Chapter 9, the gondola of whispered dreams. You lift your foot onto the weathered plank, its wood warmed by countless travellers' feet. It creaks ever so softly beneath you, as if greeting you home. The gondolier does not speak. Instead, the gentle song rising from the cabin drifts outward, wrapping around you like a soft shawl. You step across and settle onto the plush velvet cushions lining the cabin bench. The scent of spiced tea mingles with aged wood and oiled brass. Above, tiny lanterns glow with a lantern blue light, their flames steady, unwavering. As the plank retracts with a quiet hiss, you sense the subtle motion of departure. The water parts beneath the gondola, leaving a wake that falls away into silence. The low hum shifts. It is no longer just the gondola's song, but the heartbeat of the canal itself guiding you forward. You inhale deeply, tasting hints of cinnamon and night-blooming jasmine carried on the mist. Ahead, the canal stretches into darkness, flanked by canal-side walkways hung with copper lanterns that murmur in rhythm with your passage. You lean forward to peer over the edge. Below, the water reflects thousands of pinpricks of light, stars above mirrored in rippling mosaics. Shadows drift beneath the surface, shoals of mechanical carp moving in slow, synchronized ballet, their copper scales flickering like distant lanterns themselves. The gondolier reaches a hand to a small lever beside the bow, and the gondola's prow tilts slightly as if nodding. A plume of steam rises from a hidden vent, curling upward in silver spirals before vanishing into the night air. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the motion and scent and sound blend into a single lullaby. When you open them again, you notice that the canal has carried you beneath a stone bridge, carved with reliefs of floating airships and clock faces. The underside is illuminated by lanterns slung from gilded rings, casting warm pools of light on the water. As you pass beneath, the song shifts. Soft chimes join the melody, each note echoing off the arches before fading into the dark. Beyond the bridge, buildings rise like obelisks of brass, glass and wood, their facades are lined with balconies brimming with potted ferns and copper vines. Soft light spills from windows, but nothing stirs inside. The city sleeps, and yet it breathes, alive in every ticking mechanism and drifting steam plume. You trace the outlines of a facade that glows faintly, a workshop window where a single automaton stands motionless, as though paused mid-turn. Its brass hands hover over a lathe turned off for the night. You wonder what it was crafting. A tiny gear, a pocket watch, a dream. A gentle bend brings the gondola to a quay where a row of closed stalls stands, their awnings furled. Dock workers, automatons with lamplit eyes, sit quietly on crates, their heads bowed, guardians of the waterways. One glances at you, then returns to rest. Their presence feels protective rather than watchful. The gondola glides on, moving deeper into a quieter district. Here the canal narrows until the water laps just beneath the cabin's edge. You reach out, trailing a finger through the surface. The water cools your skin, the droplets pooling and falling back in tiny rings. Each ring reaches the hull and laps harmlessly, as though greeting the night in turn. In the distance you hear the soft murmur of fountains, some hidden, others perched on pedestals at water's edge. Their gentle cascades form ribbons of sound that weave together into a tapestry of water music. The gondola slows, giving you time to listen. You tilt your head, letting the harmonies settle into your bones. A velvet-curtained alcove appears at the water's edge, barely visible in the lantern glow. The gondolier steers toward it. As you enter, the alcove's curtains part, revealing a hidden grotto beneath a carved portico. Inside, a stone basin catches falling water from a roof spout. The droplets patter in soft, irregular rhythms. Moss pillows are strewn along the basin's edge. You feel compelled to disembark and sit among them, but the gondola glides past, carrying you onward. Emerging from the grotto, the canal opens into a wide basin where a great wheel stands half submerged. The wheel's paddles turn with such slowness they almost appear still, yet you feel their motion in the gentle swell of water against the hull. Gleaming rivulets trace the wheel's spokes, scattering lamplight into dancing prisms. Your gaze drifts upward, past iron girders festooned with copper lanterns, toward a balcony ringed with glass orbs. Their lights pulse softly in unison, marking the gondola's path like celestial signposts. One orb flickers brighter as you pass beneath, then dims just as gently, as though nodding farewell. The gondola begins to turn in a slow circle around the basin. You follow the wheel's rim as it moves, catching glimpses of carved reliefs along its circumference, stories immortalized in stone, a child releasing a lantern into the sky, a traveller unlocking a brass door, a mechanical bird taking flight. Each scene seems to capture a moment of transition, a passage from one realm of being to another. You lean back against your cushion and close your eyes. The gondola's song becomes your focus, a gentle weave of strings and bell tones, underscored by the soft pulse of steam valves. It is the song of departure and arrival, of dreams set in motion. You feel yourself drifting with it, held safe in its melodic current. When you open your eyes, the gondola has departed the basin and now glides beneath an overhead canopy of spun copper vines. Tiny lanterns hang from their tendrils, each flame reflecting in the dark water below like a pair of stars. The vines part to reveal a narrow channel leading to a carved stone arch inscribed with swirling motifs, whirls of wind, spirals of gear teeth, arcs of foliage. You pass through the arch and find yourself in a cathedral-like chamber where water fills shallow terraces carved into broad stone steps. At each level, small fountains feed the next, creating a cascade of dappled silver. Moss carpets the terraces, and at regular intervals brass railings offer places to rest. You feel the urge to disembark and wander among them, but the gondola's path curves upward, urging you to remain aboard. The song shifts again. Now, the chorus of strings is joined by a low drone, soft and humming, like bees resting at dusk. The terrace's waterfalls blend with the drone, and you can almost sense the subterranean currents that feed them. The lanterns here glow with a deeper hue, wine red and amber, casting long, gentle shadows across the stone. As the gondola glides past the highest terrace, you see a large circular opening in the far wall. Steam vents surround it in decorative arrays, their puffs choreographed in timed bursts. You feel the heat on your face as the boat approaches. The gondolier adjusts the heading, and the cabin tilts slightly to port, aligning you with the opening centre. Through the portal, you glimpse a vast underground basin, lit by phosphorescent moss and the glow of submerged lanterns. The water here is perfectly still, glass-like, reflecting the chamber's grand archways and columns. The gondola enters and the portal closes behind you with a whisper of machinery. Silence envelops you, broken only by the gentle ripple of your passage and the distant hum of unseen engines. You lean forward, mesmerized by the mirrored world around you. A single brass chain descends from the vaulted ceiling, its links massive, each one etched with star maps. It sways ever so slightly, touched by some imperceptible breeze. Below you, the water's surface breaks as tiny silver fish, clockwork in form, swim beneath your hull. Their movements are synchronized, weaving patterns of light that flicker across the cavern walls. You watch them pass, one by one, following invisible paths in the dark. The gondola's song resumes, quieter now, as though in reverence for the stillness. It carries you toward the cavern's far edge, where a broad stairway of black marble rises from the water. Each step is inlaid with mother-of-pearl lines tracing the phases of the moon. Lanterns embedded in the walls mark each rise with pale blue light. The gondola pauses at the foot of the stairs, The gangplank extends and you step off, feeling the marble cool beneath your feet. You climb slowly, each step an invitation to linger. The fish circle below, their paths etched in soft luminescence. When you reach the top, you find yourself on a balcony overlooking the cavern, a place of quiet pilgrimage. Above, the ceiling opens into an oculus, revealing the night sky. A single airship drifts across, its lanterns winking like distant stars. A breeze ruffles your hair, carrying with it a scent of distant rain and ironwood. You lean on the balustrade, listening to the gondola's echoing song below, and breathe deeply. When you feel ready, you turn and step through a large brass door set into the chamber's wall. It swings inward on silent pivots, revealing a long corridor lit by soft violet lanterns. The walls here are smooth brass panels etched with constellations. At the corridor's end, a final arch beckons. Beyond the arch, a great copper bridge spans a misty chasm. Its rails curve like the smile of the world, and along its length glow lanterns shaped like watching eyes. The path leads into Chapter 10, over the copper bridge. You step onto the bridge's broad planks of polished copper, each board etched with spirals and leaf motifs that shimmer beneath the lantern light. The warmth of dawn's first rays seeps into the metal, and beneath your boots the surface feels alive, softly humming with residual heat from yesterday's sun. Moss woven into the seams cushions your steps, and with each footfall you sense the bridge's steady breath, as though it itself were greeting you into this new day. A gentle breeze stirs, carrying hints of wet stone and wildflowers. The mist coils around your ankles, curling like slow dancers before drifting upward to swirl around the lantern eyes. Their lenses widen in greeting, glowing brightest as you pass beneath each one. You lean against the railing, its smooth copper cool against your palm, and peer down into the chasm. Below, a ribbon of bioluminescent alder winds through crags and stone pillars, its emerald light pulsing in time with the bridge's silent heartbeat. You close your eyes for a moment to drink in the chorus of sight and sound. The algae's glow, the mists whisper, the bridge's pulse. The path ahead curves gently. Each board slides into the next in seamless precision, and you follow their line as though drawn by gentle gravity. On either side, the canyon's walls glow softly with mineral veins reflecting the morning light. Delicate blooms edge the cliffs, flowers whose petals bear tiny gear patterns, opening to release a scent of honey and ancient stone as you drift past. One flower unfurls a single, copper-etched petal that trembles in greeting before folding shut again, leaving only its soft perfume behind. As you continue, you pass under an arch of copper ribbon swirling overhead. The metal here is thick, and detailed filigree work patterns the surface with leaves and gears, so fine they resemble lace. The arch frames a view of the canyon floor far below, a play of light on water, stone and living vine. The lantern eyes attached to the arch chime softly as you cross, their notes drifting like distant bells. Beyond the arch, the bridge's railings rise in elegant arcs, their copper spines entwined with living vines. You reach out and trace a finger along one vine, its tendrils warm and flexible, studded with tiny buds that glow like embers. As you pass, a bud unfurls into a blossom pulsing with pale light. The bloom releases a swirl of golden pollen that drifts across your face like flecks of sunlight. You inhale, tasting a hint of mint and sunlight warmed within glass. The bridge's gradient shifts imperceptibly, guiding you up toward its highest point. With each step, the world seems to open around you. From this vantage, you glimpse distant towers painted in copper and brass, their windows aglow with lantern light. Airships drift lazily overhead, long shadows against the sky, their propellers silent in the still air. The canyon walls fall away, revealing tiers of rock terraces and hidden grottos, each lit by a single lantern or bioluminescent fungus. At the apex of the bridge, lantern eyes cluster above like constellations gathered at the zenith. Their soft glow scatters in the mist, creating halos of colour that float around you. You stand for a moment, arms wide, absorbing the panorama. Below, the algae river glimmers. In the distance, the city lights fade into morning haze. Above, airships drift against a pale ribbon of sky. The bridge holds you in this moment, a gentle cradle of metal and light. Turning, you begin your descent. The slope is subtle, and your pace becomes measured, each footfall echoing softly. The moss underfoot cushions each step, and you feel grounded, carried forward by the bridge's unwavering support. The lantern eyes adjust their glow to the rising sun, shifting from cool blue to warm amber. Their lenses catch the light and focus it into beams that dance across the copper floor in gentle constellations. Along the lower spans, the mist clears further, revealing waterfalls cascading from the canyon walls. Their waters fall in shimmering curtains, meeting the river below in silver torrents. You hear the water's song, a delicate lace of droplets, each note unique yet part of a pattern. You pause beside one waterfall that arcs over the railing, its spray misting your face. The droplets taste of mountain springs and forgotten dreams. A little farther on, a narrow staircase of living stone descends from a lookout platform built into the railing. Curiosity draws you upward, and you climb the moss-lined steps to a rocky outcrop jutting into the chasm. The platform's stone is cool, etched with ancient runes of spirals and stars. You lean on its edge, watching the river glow and the mist drift. The algae's pulse seems to strengthen in this hidden alcove, and you breathe slowly, your chest rising and falling to match its rhythm. Descending back to the bridge, you feel the path shift beneath you. Copper boards give way to broad stones set with metal inlays. Each stone bears a single symbol: leaf, droplet, wheel, spiral, capturing elements of this world's essence. You step deliberately from symbol to symbol. On the leaf, you feel the memory of the vines. On the droplet, the taste of mist. On the wheel, the pulse of motion. On the spiral, the echo of journeys begun and journeys ending. With each step, the bridge speaks its silent language, guiding you onward. The landscape brightens as the sun rises fully. Pale gold floods the canyon, and the copper railings glow like molten metal. Shadows retreat, and hidden details emerge. Small statuettes perched along the supports, figures of travellers carved in copper, each one unique, each one still. Their tiny faces are serene, as if at peace with being part of the bridge's timeless span. You touch one statuette, its shoulder cool and firm, and you sense the care taken to honour every traveller's passage. As you near the bridge's end, vines arch overhead to form a final canopy. The vines are heavy with blossoms of pale glass, each petal patterned with fine clockwork filigree. The blossoms open with a soft click, releasing a mist of lavender and rain-kissed earth. A single blossom drifts free, falling toward you. You catch it in your hand. Its surface is smooth and warm, and its glow holds a promise that your steps forward will be as guided and safe as those across this bridge. You step off the moss-lined planks onto a terrace of living rock. The transition is seamless. The copper ends, the stone begins, but you feel no jolt, only the bridge's lingering embrace in your bones. The terrace is awash in dawn light. Moss carpets the ground, and flowering vines climb the walls. A spring bubbles from the rock, its water pure and clear. You kneel, cupping your hands to drink. The water tastes of new beginnings, crisp, bright, awakening. Behind you rises the tower you glimpsed earlier. Its base is framed by copper columns entwined with living vines. Lantern light spills from its tall arched doorway, mingling with morning's warmth to welcome you inside. Soft music drifts down the corridor, a melody of strings and woodwind that echoes the bridge's song. You stand, feeling the terrace's stone firm beneath you, and turn to face the tower. One final glance at the bridge behind you reveals its full arc. Copper gleaming, lantern eyes guiding, mist swirling below. You carry its memory in your heart, the lantern's watchful gaze, the moss's gentle support, the arch's protective embrace, the blossom's whispered promise. With that, you step forward through the tower's open door, leaving the bridge's gift of peace to glow against the canyon's rising sun.